Hi there. In this video, we're going to work on getting started with using the cloud for healthcare to be able to fulfill a mobile nurse request for a conference with a physician. Now, specific to this scenario, that mobile nurse may not have direct access to corporate applications, network, like some of those types of things that can often make it difficult to get in touch with somebody. And oftentimes it results in somebody using a direct, like personal cell phone and texting individual practitioners, or maybe a group text with some practitioners and doing something like a call or a FaceTime or something, kind of that's not very scalable and leads to a lot of distraction and frustration. Not really a great use of all of those resources. And while I'm focused on a mobile nurse scenario here, this is applicable in many other use cases. One where I've seen this is in ET3 scenarios where you have an EMT reaching out to an ED physician. Also for a remote specialist trying to do a consult, and that may, just trying to get in front of those right people and get them onto a conference call in an expedient manner. So what we'll cover today is kind of setting this up where that mobile nurse will reach out through a chatbot that will automate both the request to a group of tagged physicians. One of those physicians can join the meeting along with the requesting nurse as our example there. And to do this, we'll go through 3 steps. One of them is configuring teams. We'll start by getting a tag set up that we'll use to be able to notify the people, those physicians who can potentially respond to that request. We'll configure the automation, both the intake, getting those questions initially set up, as well as creating the meeting, sending join links, and that sort of thing. Then lastly, we'll share and use it and follow up with a little bit of discussion of where this can go next. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the setup demonstration. All right, so I'm starting out in Microsoft Teams, and for our example here, I'm going to use the pediatrics group as the folks that we're going to be trying to reach out to. I'll start, as I mentioned, by creating a tag. And this is available, it'll be physicians, available for remote request. Very creative, I know. And heading into this, I have a few doctors who I'm going to bring in. It'll be Dr. House, it'll be Dr. Patel, and Dr. Clark. We'll all be part of that. Boom, we now have our tag all set up. On to the next step. And for this, we're going to go into the Power Platform, and we're going to start by setting up a chatbot. I haven't created one yet. This will take a couple of minutes in the background as it provisions. So I'll show you the steps and then talk a little bit about some of the decisions that we've made as we go through this. So I'm going to call this bot pediatrics request, and primary language is going to be English US. All right, I'll let that go ahead and provision in the background, waiting for a green banner that's going to show up at the top. So you might be asking, why are we using a chatbot for this front end? Couldn't we stand up like a portal or a website or something like that? And we certainly could. What's nice about the chatbot is it's an easy interface to deploy somewhere that exists, or just give somebody a direct link to interact with that chatbot. You can deploy it to a variety of different channels, or ways for them to get in touch with that bot. It's also something that you can secure through a handful of different means. You can confirm that you've got that nurse logged in this scenario that we're going through, where you can know who it is, a little bit about them, and help route things to the right people as they send in those requests. So chatbot is certainly not the only way, but a super relevant way. It also provides an active communication channel so that when the online meeting is created, they can have the join link responded directly back to them without having to go to a different page or wait for something to happen as they are physically meeting with a patient. All right. And with that, we have our bot ready to go. It's in that solution that I'd created. I can confirm that here. And what I'll do is I'm going to use the topic, and I'm just going to use the greeting. This is very much a purpose-driven bot. So it comes out of the box with a few, basic hello kind of messages, but we're not really going to use these. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those standard things, and I'm going to say my own custom message here, and I'll say, "Hi, I can help get you in touch with the pediatrics docs." Go ahead and ask a few questions. First question is going to be, what is the patient's name? And for this, I'm going to say we want the whole response from the user. And this is going to be patient name. I'm going to ask for a second thing, which is going to be, what is the situation? And of course, we can get pretty fancy with the different ways that are different types of questions or types of detail that we can ask. We can even provide suggested responses if there are some common things that they'd be requesting. But here I'm just going to use basic text. Call that situation. And I'll ask one more question. And this question is, what is your name? And that's asking the nurse themselves. As I mentioned before, if you've already authenticated or logged them in somehow, you already know who that person is. So this would be kind of extraneous at that point. But for this simple example, I'm just going to request it. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of automation in this, where now I want to go and create the online meeting that they're going to use using Teams. I'm going to create the notification going out to the team, and I'm going to bring back the join link to be able to respond through the bot to the nurse who's requested it here. So for this, I'm going to call an action, and I'm going to create a flow. So Power Automate Flow does the automation steps in this, or kind of does the heavy lifting for the person creating this workflow. Go ahead and give it a good name. I'll call it Pediatrics Request to Meet. I'm going to go ahead and from the virtual agent, I'm going to add a few things that I pass in. You may be able to guess what these are. I'll go ahead and grab our patient, the situation, and the nurse. All right, so let's add in a few steps. The first step is going to be, I'm going to create a Teams meeting. For this, I'll keep the details pretty light in the Teams meeting body itself, but I'll say request for pediatrics support from, I'll go ahead and include the nurse name in there. Go ahead and include the same message. For my time zone, I'm not having to do any fancy time zone calculations because I'm not scheduling it for any other time. I'm doing it right now. So I can go ahead and use this formula that gets me the current time, and another formula that I can add a little bit of time to the time that it is now. So for this, I'll add 15 minutes to now. All right, next thing I'll do, I'll go ahead and get the information about the tag that we created in that first step. So I'm going to go mention, and Teams has this get and add mention token for a tag. And our team that we chose was, not pediatrics care, it was pediatrics. And the tag ID is physicians available for remote request. All right. Next, you want to go ahead and post a channel. And this is actually post a message in chat or channel. We could do this through a chat as well. There are advantages and drawbacks to using persistent chat versus a channel. Not really going to go into those right now, but a quick, one quick one that may have you think of using a persistent chat is that it will do more of like an outbound notification, a push notification, a little bit more aggressively, if you will. There are other ways to be able to accomplish that same thing. You can send a notification in Teams other ways, or as I'll talk about later, do additional notifications. But for this example, I'm just going to use the posting of a message in a particular channel. So I'll go ahead and post to the general channel in our pediatrics team and say a remote request, a remote session has been requested. Please click here to join. And I'm going to carbon copy some that tag that I just mentioned before. So, a couple of things that we'll do here. One, I'm going to add in my @mention tag down here. So I'm going to carbon copy those people that I want to mention. I'm also going to turn that click here into a link. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm not even going to write the full link out here because I don't want to have a static link. Instead, I want to use information from a previous step. I want my actual meeting join link. So what I'll do is I'm going to go into the message code view. This is HTML for those who are curious. And I'm going to include the join URL as part of it. I want to make sure I have my quotation marks around both sides of that. Looks like I have everything in place there. And last but not least, what I'm going to do is return information to the chatbot. And this is going to be the join URL. Great. Go ahead and give that a save. All right. Let's hop back over to our pediatrics request bot and go ahead and call that action now. See if I can remember what I called it. What was it? Pediatrics request? Something creative? I don't know. Naming things is hard. Let's see here. Pediatrics request to meet. That sounds right to me. Step validate. Yep. Request to meet. There we go. So the patient that we want to pass in comes from our patient variable. The situation comes from our situation variable. The nurse comes from the nurse variable. And then what we get back is that wonderful little join URL link, which we can then let them know in the message. Your request has been received. Use this link to join the meeting. Go ahead and post in the join URL. And as an additional step here, I'm just going to add in an extra message. This is just a nice little thing before calling an automation, and say, I will work on setting up the meeting and requesting a doc. Hang tight. Just so they know that something's going on while that automation does its work and before the message actually gets returned to them. Once that finishes saving, we'll go ahead and test this out. I'm excited. Saved. Go ahead and refresh my window to the side here and say hi. They can help get me in touch with the pediatrics docs. Sounds great. Use Jane Doe. Situation. Need details for a situation. Very detailed here. Matt Anderson. Actually, I'm going to use Matt Parsons because that is my demo persona in this environment. All right, now it lets me know that it's going to work on setting up the meeting. Oh, wow, that happened super quick. So love it when that stuff goes very quickly. Request has been received. Use this link to be able to join the meeting. Gives me all the details, and I can click the link to be able to join. Now back over here on the other side, if I go to my pediatrics team, I can go to my general channel, and I can see it's right now 5:08 as I'm recording this. A remote session has been requested. Please click here to join. Carbon copy to the physicians available for remote request. So those ones who are there, they of course can just click, and it'll do the integrated meeting inside of Teams for the person on the other side who's got this. It's going to go on whatever device they have to be able to do that. But we're off to the races. Very quick, very easy, and not having to use personal devices, personal text, or anything of that nature in order to do it. So last thing we'll do is talk a little bit about sharing and using that. So once we've got it working how we would expect it to, you can go ahead and publish the bot. I'll go ahead and publish that latest content. And this will take all the configuration work, those details that we had, and make them available through the channels that we set up. So without going into too much depth in this video, there are a variety of different places that we can make the chat experience available through. We can test it out, or if you're following along at home, you can test out through the demo website very easily. But you can use a variety of those different channels to be able to publish out to. Each of those has details about how you might do it. If you have a mobile app for them, you can integrate it there. If they're using Teams and they don't want to set up their own Teams meeting, they can, the bot can be available through Teams, all sorts of different ways to be able to initiate these requests. So with that, we're through the configuration portion of this. Didn't take too long, but it brings the question up of where do we go from here? And there are a few different things. One is, as I alluded to at the end of the sharing portion, is adding those additional kind of secure request channels. This includes things like, I don't know, if there's a portal that those nurses can use from their device where they can be logged in, it knows who they are. Great way to be able to reduce the amount of information that you request from them. Additionally, you can leverage as part of that secure channel the virtual appointment API that's available. We have other videos and posts around using that virtual appointment API, but that lets the remote party, the nurse in this case, or the EMT or the whatever, join the meeting from a mobile phone browser instead of having to use a Teams meeting client on their device. I'll add a link to the details on that in the resources below. So the next thing that we might do is do some more advanced queue management. So we used a simple tag inside of Teams, but it's fairly lightweight. Capturing some of the detail, what requests are coming in, how many, what time of day, some of that basic logging is a great place to get started. As far as like what's actually been responded to? Do we have somebody who's, actually taking that one, so we don't have three different, doctors all responding to that? That can be, part of picking from a queue, if you will. And in Dynamics 365 customer service, which is built on the same Power Platform, there's some advanced capability, multiple queues, escalations, resource matching, rules, and you can also make use of the data interoperability toolkit for the cloud for healthcare for providers and patients, if you even want to bring that in. So, you can get a lot more fancy on that, but for that, it kind of depends on what is your use case, where do you want to get started, and maybe that's something you graduate into. And then last but not least, kind of enhancing the alerting and reporting. We used Teams channel chat message and @mention notification to give some people, a bit of an alert that it's coming to them. That's okay. It is a good way to get a message out. But I've certainly talked with customers where they want to have something like a more aggressive text message go out, kind of driving people still back into the Teams call, but they still want to get in touch with people through an SMS message. So that's another example. Again, in the customer service application I mentioned, you can have native alerting there, notifications around the escalations, making sure things don't sit for too long, how long has it been in the queue, and those sorts of things. And you get not only the more advanced alerting, but the more advanced reporting capability as part of that. So plenty of opportunity, but wanted to try to keep this video pretty quick, pretty tight as we build in the Cloud for Healthcare. Hope this is helpful in being able to get started with this use case and others like it. If you have any questions, please get in touch with us through the blog or through your Microsoft account team, and looking forward to connecting with you in other videos. Thanks a lot.